Hi everybody, so in this video I'm going to be giving you some advice on how to get started in Battlefield 4. Because if you're coming from playing Call of Duty, Battlefield 4 can be very confusing indeed. Because things kind of seem familiar, but the game plays very differently to COD. And without the right direction, the game becomes too frustrating and you'll just rage quit and stop playing. Please trust me when I say that if you stick with it, Battlefield 4 will give you some amazing gaming moments that you just can't experience in any other first-person shooter. First up, game mode. You've probably seen the videos of Jack Frags and his mates storming around the game in helicopters, tanks, jets and boats, capturing objectives, blowing up buildings and covering vast distances. And that's probably what attracted you to Battlefield in the first place. But that's not how we're going to start. Team Deathmatch is the game mode that will be most familiar to Call of Duty players, and it's the one that will get you ready for the bigger, objective-based modes. It's your side against theirs, with the first to 100 kills winning. The maps are small for Battlefield, and the minimap will be familiar from Call of Duty, if in a different part of the screen. There's a lot more players too, a maximum of 24 with 12 on each side, so don't worry about not finding the enemies on these larger maps compared to Call of Duty. You can use the minimap to see enemies when they're firing or if they've been spotted, and you can also see your own teammates, including where they've died, so you'll be able to use your Call of Duty spawn knowledge to work out where the enemy is likely to be coming from. In this more familiar environment, you should take the time to practice with the weapons, running around, going up and down ladders, and using the various equipment. Your playstyle will be more conservative and boots on the ground than Call of Duty, and a lot more team-based. I can't stress enough how every game you spend developing your Battlefield 4 skills in Team Deathmatch will help you with the larger objective-based game modes, without the frustration of the larger maps where, if you don't know what you're doing, make Battlefield 4 seem like a running and dying simulator, rather than a game which has moments that'll have a shiver go down your spine as you storm an objective with 10 other teammates with tanks, jets and helicopters supporting you. Now, I know you're going to be keen as mustard to get cracking at Battlefield 4 now you know that Team Deathmatch is the jumping in point, but stick with me for a few more minutes and I'll give you some more top tips. Okay, so we're set on Team Deathmatch as the game mode we're going to be playing to start with, and to access it, just go to Multiplayer, Quick Match, TDM, and I'd recommend the base map to start with. That way you'll have a chance to get used to the layout and the flow of gameplay. You may find you get dropped into newbie servers to start off with, but just stick with it, keep playing and you'll be dropped into full servers soon enough. Now, let's take a step back. If you bought the premium version or have been playing the game already, you may have some battle packs to open. These are like the supply drops from Call of Duty. Just access them via the My Soldier menu, then flip them all open. If you bought premium, it'll have loads to open, and some of them will contain useful attachments for your weapons, such as red dot sights, grips and suppressors. Now we've got those extra goodies, let's take a closer look at the classes and what we could run with to start with. Annoyingly, you've got to jump into a map to adjust your class, but luckily there's the test range for us to play around with. So select that from the menu, and when the deploy screen pops up, try not to press the deploy button, but instead use the shoulder buttons to make sure the assault class is selected. Assault is great for Team Deathmatch, as we've got access to, you've guessed it, the assault rifles. We've got medic packs to heal ourselves and our teammates, and a handy grenade launcher to fire through windows, round corners and knock holes in walls. It's also a favourite of mine to use when you come across an enemy and they don't see you, because a quick grenade one hit kill always brings a smile to my face. If you press the square button with the class selected, we can customise it. Stick with the P226 pistol, the grenade, medic pack and the M320 launcher, but you'll want to modify the assault rifle if you can. I run with the Scar H at the moment, which is super powerful but not that great at close range, but the M416 is a great all-round assault rifle, and the AEK971 is a close range beast but difficult to control until you get the angle grip. If you're just starting and have only got access to the AK-12, run with that, getting kills and XP, then switch to the M416 or the Scar H when you unlock them. We want to try and add a red dot sight. The Coyote is large and clear, and some sort of grip. The angle grip is best for aiming down sight, but if you haven't got that available, just equip one of the others. To get the attachments, you've simply got to play with the gun and get kills, so don't worry if you haven't got them to start with. After a few games they'll become available. Near the bottom of the screen you can see the perks, but again, just stick with the default defensive setup. Now we can deploy and we're in the wonderful target range. Have a wander around, fly for some helicopters or drive some boats or vehicles, but what we're really interested in now is the target range. In your first few weeks of Battlefield 4, you'll want to make the target range your first port of call before diving into multiplayer. It's a no-risk way to start getting your twitch muscles into the Battlefield 4 way of doing things. So while we're here, make sure you have a go at blasting a few targets. I like doing this run through the target range. It's a good warm-up before going up against real players in the main game. I'd highly recommend you look at your sensitivity in the settings at this point. I found the default sensitivity way too high and knocked it back to 15 horizontally and 15 vertically. Then you should drop back into the firing range and see how that improved things. Another thing you may want to consider is switching the melee and crouch buttons around, especially on the PlayStation 4. I found that because there's quite a gap between engagements, so when I'd run into another enemy, I'd be so excited that I'd press down too hard on the right stick, meaning that I'd swing my knife rather than shoot, and I'd get killed. If you go into the options and switch to the veteran layout, the melee is swapped to the circle on PS4, so all you do by accident is crouch, where you can still fire quickly. While we're still in the test range, let's fire up a boost too. These handy little prizes that come in battle packs multiply the amount of XP you earn while playing, so always fire one up to keep those points coming in. You can only have one going at a time, and don't overlap them or you'll lose some time from the earlier one. If there is a game-wide special boosting effect though, usually on promotional weekends, your boost and the EA provided boost do work together, so that's the time to really grind out the points, just like a double XP weekend in Call of Duty. Before we dive into a game, there's something else we can do too, and that's reconnoitre the levels. On the base Battlefield 4 maps you'll come across Operation Locker, Zavod 311, Lankang Dam, Flood Zone, Gormwood Railway, Paracel Storm, Hainan Resort, Siege of Shanghai, Rogue Transmission and Dawnbreaker. The problem is that this game has been out since 2013 and everyone will know the maps better than you, and the middle of a firefight isn't the safest place to start sightseeing. But what we can do is check out an empty online server, of which there are many. All you need to do is go to the server browser, choose TDM as your game mode, choose the map, look for an empty ranked or official server, and you'll be in, with all the time in the world to wander around and get the feel of the maps. What is remarkable about Battlefield 4 is that each game mode has a different version of a particular map, so bear in mind that you may get familiar with the TDM version of a map, but the larger game modes will be just that, much larger, and you'll have lots more to learn too. But feel free to go back to the server browser and change the game mode so you can walk around the empty, say City of Shanghai larger map for example. A really important part of Battlefield 4 is spotting, which is simply you looking at an enemy and tapping the right shoulder button on your gamepad. This then puts a handy triangle above their head, often referred to as a Dorito in YouTube videos, and also highlights them on the minimap so all your teammates will see them and start shooting at them too. This might seem a waste of precious shooting time at first, but especially when you get into the larger game modes with aircraft and armoured vehicles involved, the act of spotting enemy soldiers, helicopters and tanks really does help out your team, because it allows you to effectively call in superior firepower without exposing yourself to enemy fire, and it earns you points too. The act of spotting also triggers the voice cues you'll hear. Enemy sniper to your north, or something like enemy tank to your west, which is super helpful to you and your team in any game mode. You should develop the habit of spotting first then shooting, unless of course you're in a head-to-head gunfight. Now, let's talk in-game tactics. You'll spawn in with your team towards one side of the map, and the enemy team will do the same in a different part of the map, but generally not opposite. So even though the maps are big compared to COD, you can run into enemies pretty quick. The same goes for when you spawn in after dying. You generally can spawn away from the enemy team, but be careful because quite a few times you'll be closer to the action than you think. While we're on the subject of dying, if your teammates are on the ball, you'll find that you get the odd revive when someone uses their defibrillator on you, and you'll get the option to accept the revive or not. You'll find that most times you'll die soon after, because you'll only recover with 20% health, which means you'll die with about one hit from any weapon. But don't let that put you off. because that revive could save your team a ticket, and the goal for TDM in Battlefield 4 is to get 100 kills or tickets to win, and that revive stops the enemy team getting a ticket if you manage to stay alive. You'll notice that compared to Call of Duty, your movements are a lot more restricted. This really is a boots on the ground experience, so you need to rely on positioning and accuracy to get the upper hand in gunfights rather than movement speed. This means that you should move around the map from cover to cover. Stick close to walls, peek corners, pre-aim, and avoid open areas. You'll come across very good snipers who'll camp in the corner of the map or in a high area and just wait for you to get into an exposed situation. However, if you do get into a gunfight, don't try and strafe like you would in Call of Duty. Don't try and dive to the floor or do anything fancy. Just stand still, fire from the hip if you're close, or aim down sights and go for the chest and head. Be cool, calm and accurate, and you'll be okay with practice. If you come across an enemy and they don't see you, go for the melee kill if it's from behind, because you won't show up on the minimap, but it's from further away or from the side, always go for the shot. It's too easy for them to turn around and drop on you if you go for a glory melee kill when a simple gunshot would have been safer. Sound plays a very important part in Battlefield 4, just like Call of Duty, so make sure you've got your headset on and listen out for enemy footsteps and shoutouts. Your biggest help is the minimap, which will show you your teammates, their deaths and enemies if they've been spotted or are firing from an unsuppressed weapon. Look for the gaps on the map, and that's where your enemies will be. Remember to spot before you fire if you can, or if enemies are too far away, and only engage if you're sure you're going to get a kill. As soon as you've fired your weapon, the enemy team will come looking for you, so either skedaddle out of there or find cover and get ready to ambush them. My favourite technique is to fire and hopefully kill, and then double around to the same area to catch enemies that are coming to investigate. Make the most of your grenades and launchers to hit enemies hiding behind cover or through doorways, but always be aware that they can do the same to you, so keep moving and closing with the enemy. In Battlefield 4 maps, you'll find hotspots that attract a lot of attention, areas that the teams will be fighting over. In the Hainan Resort map, it tends to be the upper floor of the hotel. In Zavod, it can be the tunnels underneath the hangars, and in Floods, it's the high roofs on the sides of the map, which are perfect for snipers, or recon as they called it in Battlefield 4. Try and flank around to approach the areas from the side rather than straight on attack, although a rush with all your teammates can be very effective too. Teammates are super important in Battlefield 4. Although you can have some success as a lone wolf, the successful team will be the one where the people work together. Keep spotting enemies and stay close to your teammates so you can toss them magnet packs and pick up ammo from them. It's very difficult to get multiple kills in Battlefield 4, one after the other, unlike in COD, but if you're with a teammate, they'll lend a hand too. As you can see, I'm no expert, but hopefully I've given you some ideas to get started in Battlefield 4, and hopefully you'll stick with it and then try out the objective modes like Rush and Conquest Small and Conquest Large. I'll be covering those options in later videos, but if you want to learn the basics, each game mode has a simple tutorial on the menu. Just pop into it and access it and you'll get the idea. I guarantee with Battlefield 4 that when you start you'll feel disorientated, disjointed and not in control of your own destiny. But keep with it, things will start to click and you'll start to really enjoy the game. Well, that's enough from me. Please put any questions or comments down below. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you'd like to see more of the same. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.